attach comb to a rounded surface. So the bees would build their comb in here, put honey and brood in here, and that's how you would keep bees. But alas, in order to get the honey, you'd have to kill the bees, remove the comb, crush the comb to get the honey. Alas, being a man of the cloth, even though we have dominion over the earth, I felt killing the bees for honey was just wrong. So I endeavored to come up with a new and better way. So just 10 years ago, in 1851, I patented Lorenzo Langstroth patented my new hive. Let me show you the fine bits of my new hive. If you take notice, this box is here, it's on an angle, so it will shed water. It's got a large landing board for the bees to come on. I lost a child to the scourge of the time, tuberculosis. And we know that breath, air, fresh air is important for tuberculosis. So, and of all good living things. So I gave a wide space for plenty of ventilation for my hive. Also, since bees, in the winter time, the reason why bees make honey, in the winter time they run in place to maintain 85 degrees in the hive. I add these to make them movable so they could get smaller in the winter time to help insulate my hive. Inside the hive, I have an inner cover. I had this idea that we could put jars on the top of these holes, and the bees would come in, fill it with comb, and fill it with comb and honey. Then all we have to do is remove this comb, and we'd have a jar already filled with comb and honey. Unfortunately, I could not teach the bees to put the same amount of honey in every jar, and the Bureau of Weights and Measurements didn't like this idea. So I had to come up with a new idea. More innovations for my original hive. I realized that here, this comb came from a chimney in Frederick County. This comb was made entirely by bees, unmade by man in any kind. If you take notice, the combs are 3/4 of an inch wide. And in between the comb, there's a space of about 1/4 inch. That space we deemed a bee space. It's a space from 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch. In your house, us humans have built into our houses human space. Like our front doors, 3 foot wide, and interior doors are 32 inches wide. It's normal space that we need to get around. Well, bees need 3/4 of an inch, and if it's less than 3/4 of an inch, or 3/8 of an inch, they'll fill it with propolis, bee spackle. They get it from trees. And if it's wider, they'll add additional comb for honey and for bee. So I use this same thought in my design. Here is my original frame. It is 3/4 of an inch wide, just like a comb is naturally. And as long as we space them 1/4 inch apart, the bees will not go outside of the comb. Give a little starter here comb in the center, and the bees then pull this comb out and fill it with honey and nectar. This comb, I take a knife and I cut off the front of it after it's filled with honey. I can put it in my it's patent pending extractor. I've actually adjusted the speed and the gearing so that it spins just the right amount of time so it flings out the honey without destroying the comb. Since wax is generated from the bee and it takes as much honey in a comb to make comb, by placing the comb back, you get twice the returns of honey for your comb and your bees. 150 years later, we are still using my design. This is a new modern day frame with foundation. Not a whole lot of difference with my space. We've got little tabs that are built in automatically to maintain bee space. But beyond that, it's exactly the same, using my principles. Hold on to that, young lady. This is a modern day comb entirely. Here's the lid. This is a model of a size, but the lid is not unlike my original lid. The inner cover is not unlike my inner cover. The 10 frames with bee space is virtually the same. We now have a bottom, and we have a bottom landing board and a bottom board with a entrance reducer, not unlike mine. Shape has changed, but the principle is the same. You would have thought For 150 years, you've been using my designs that I would have died a rich man, but alas, I was died a pauper. It seems like any good idea. Everybody else wants to steal it. And lawyers bled me dry trying to fight to keep control of my patent. But alas, as a man of the cloth, I saved all those bees from dying. And I also allowed the ability to move bees from point A to point B and allow for the great crops of apples and fruits and nuts that we have all grown used to today. Had it not been for me and my new hive, none of that would be done. So I feel that I have done a good life of God's work.
Thank you. Amen, brother.